Okay, so I've got some amount of letters here, and I'm going to name my typeface Solaris Lem, maybe Lem Solaris. Still not sure which yet, just kind of as a nod to my inspiration for it. But I want to take these letters, some of these letters that I've made, and I want to put them onto another artboard. And it's pretty easy to do. I'm going to hit Shift O to give myself another artboard. I'm going to hit minus to get there. So here's the artboard here. It's too small. I made a couple here. Let me just, I'm going to make a new artboard. I'm actually going to make it right next door to this one. Just right there. I should point out too that sometimes I like to make a little artboard that's just a little guy like that, just so I can kind of work on things individually if I want to. So like, for instance, I could bring this A over there and just kind of work on the A on this tiny little artboard if I want. But for this one, I want to actually start arranging my letters and making sure they're the right size and the right stroke. So I'm actually going to do a couple of different things. First off, I'm going to make a new layer that I kind of want to be below my lines layer. And I'm just going to call that grid. And we should be pretty used to working with grids at this stage of the game because we were just doing modular grids. But in this case, I'm going to use grids for baselines, descender heights, ascender heights, X heights. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to try to match this grid over here that I have just by dragging down from there. If you don't see these rulers, it's pretty easy. It's just Command R or Control R will make them come in and out, right? So Command R will make them come in, and then I can start to use that to sort of, maybe I'll have an X height there. Maybe not. So I'm going to actually copy this a couple of times. So Command copy, Command paste, Command V, and then I'm going to put another one of those right here. And then I'm going to put another couple right there. And I'll even have some on top here. That way I have sort of this guide that I can start to work with to get these going. I'm going to try to pay attention to my leading a little bit too. It's not super important that your leading is perfect here for this particular part of the assignment, but I don't know, sometimes I just like to make it as close as I can to being finished at every stage of the game. All right, and then I'm going to lock out that grid layer altogether just so I'm working on my lines layer. And I'm going to start taking some of these letters and bringing them over here to sort of match them up. Command plus to get a little bit closer. And what's nice about this is that I can actually, if I want to keep the same aspect ratio, I can hold on to Shift and it'll keep the correct aspect ratio. Or if I want to even stretch it out, I can not hold Shift and I can make it more stretched out. In this case, I'm going to stay a little bit more true to my sketch and probably to most of the science fiction books I got this from, and actually hold on to Shift and just make it fit on top of that baseline and then end at the cap height, or at least close to the cap height. I'm going to start doing that for all of my letters here. And it might take just a second to get them all over there, but I want them to be kind of all the same size. Maybe I'll even move this guy. I'll bring the S over. Oh, he's pretty good. I want to start thinking about kerning too at some point. We can use, I'm going to go back to my grid. We can use these same grid lines technique to figure out the kerning of these letters. And do we want them to be mono so that all the kerning is the same, or do we want them to change? That's kind of up to you. But you can use those vertical lines in your grid to help with the kerning. So I'm going to hold on to Shift, bring that down a bit so that it's laying on that line there, a little closer. You can see here too that the line thickness here is a little too much. So I'm going to go to my properties panel, and I see that stroke is set at 3, so I'm actually going to bring that down to 2, because I think that's where these guys are at too, is that all of them have a 2-stroke on there, and that's kind of what I'm looking for. Yeah. Essentially, I've recreated what I sketched out in my analog sketch, and I've recreated it using Adobe Illustrator. Now, um, I just have to work on making the other letters. I have the V here. I have the beginnings of a C here. Let me group that. Um, I think that I could probably take my M and turn it into an N pretty easily. I think I could probably even start to make a T out of my I here. I think that if I wanted to analog sketch that some more, some of these other letter form ideas, I sure could, or I could do it all on Illustrator too, even by using the pen tool to make some of these shapes and letters. Keep in mind that the main tool that you might be using a lot is this shape tool here. So you could turn some of these things into shapes, and even take away some shapes as you need to. That might be the one that you're super used to. I'm going to give you a PDF too that has all of sort of the shortcuts that I'm using with some of these. It might make it easier. Sometimes I have the shortcuts page open, but keep in mind, like once you have this as a vector file image, the rest of it's it's pretty easy. Oh, that's kind of neat. So the idea that you can really start to affect these things in different ways. Remember, hit your group button, or hit make sure your strokes are all the same. Like I'm looking at this right now, and is that stroke a little different on here? No, it's 2 points. That's good. So keep going with it. I'm going to keep going with this, and then once I have my whole alphabet written out and have my font name written out, I'm actually going to bring that over into InDesign in a different tutorial. So I'll show you how to make the InDesign book with the 3 spreads and the 1 title page after this tutorial. So I hope this makes sense. Please, again, always feel free to reach out to me via email. Just make sure that you've got all your layers. You're not trying to work on all locked out layers. Make sure that you have separate layers that you can lock out, so you don't accidentally do all your drawing on the sketch layer, on the grid layer. Make sure that you look at your properties to make sure all your properties are right. Oh, the other main thing too is the command Y is really, really helpful to figure out where some of these anchor points are. If you have anchor points that don't quite match up when you're trying to make things, that can be a little bit of a hassle. So Command Y will let you see some of those things. I can even see that my L here is down below my baseline, which I don't want. So I'm actually I'm gonna move that up just a little bit. So seeing it in this view is helpful in that way. Yeah, wow. I'm gonna bring that down a little bit there. Bring that. Anyway, so Command Y again is helpful to see where some of those lines are. Yeah. So I can't wait to see what you guys make. Good luck as always. Please let me know if you have any trouble.